Every time some free speech warrior wants to claim that Trump is this champion of free speech, I can't help but laugh. This is a guy who has said in the past that he wishes to overhaul libel laws to make it easier to sue news organizations because he just cannot handle any unfavorable coverage of himself. He sued CBS because of a 60 Minutes interview he didn't like that he felt was a fluff piece to boost Kamala's chances in the election. And now we have what is easily Trump's most brazen attack on the First Amendment, and that is what is currently going on with Mahmoud Khalil. Mahmoud Khalil is a student protester and lead negotiator representing other student protesters at Columbia University who are protesting our government's involvement in aiding and abetting Israel's genocide of Palestinians. Mahmoud Khalil is a permanent and legal resident of this country. He has a green card, but on March 8th he was arrested by ICE agents in the lobby of his apartment building and is facing having his green card revoked because of his involvement in protests against the Israeli government at Columbia. And what's most infuriating is there is really no good reason provided as to why this happened. He's pro-Hamas, he's anti-Semitic, he is engaging in quote-unquote anti-American activity, which is what Trump himself has said. Yes, it's supposedly anti-Semitic to be against the clear-cut genocide of an ethnic group that Mahmoud himself is a descent of, so as you could imagine for him, it hits a bit closer to home to see an ethnic group that he is a part of be bombed and riddled with bullets in mass, and to see the country that he is again a legal and permanent resident of supply Israel with those bombs and bullets to unleash on Palestinians. This isn't a pro-Hamas stance to be against the mass slaughter of innocent people, it just means you're equipped with basic human empathy. But they have to invoke the scary language and say that he is a terrorist sympathizer, or has connections to terrorist organizations, which I have seen some people say, which of course is also not true in the least bit. It is all to get those who are none the wiser to be on board with removing someone from this country for engaging in lawful protest and action that is protected under their First Amendment rights, but even on that front they're kind of floundering. Like for example, Bruce Blakeman, a county executive in Nassau County here in New York, went on CNN recently and said something along the lines of, Mahmoud Khalil is a paid protester paid off by terrorist organizations. And even on CNN the hosts were like, okay, what is your evidence for that claim? Who is paying off Mahmoud? And he was like, oh, I got plenty of evidence that he is paid off by anti-American organizations. Okay, what are these organizations and what is your evidence for this unsubstantiated claim? He gave nothing. Just say you think he's a terrorist because he's of Middle Eastern descent because you're a racist piece of shit. At the very least, you'd be honest. But the fact of the matter is the Trump administration snatched up someone who was engaging in their First Amendment right to protest against the actions of their government and is in the process of removing said person. And they're just straight up saying, yeah, we didn't like what he was saying. We didn't like that he was protesting our arming and funding of a genocide. And you know what? Even if Mahmoud was this hardcore Hamas supporter, so what? So what? That's not to say I would condone it if he was, but he would still be allowed to voice his support for Hamas without intervention from the government because that is what free speech is. It's like if someone was a Klan supporter. Yes, they deserve to be socially ostracized and shunned for their repugnant beliefs, but it would be a completely different matter if agents at the behest of the State Department arrested that person for voicing their beliefs. This is the most direct assault on the First Amendment I think I've ever seen, at least in my lifetime. This isn't a case of Mahmoud getting removed from YouTube or Facebook, privately owned platforms. This is our government stepping in and saying, we don't like that this student, who was one of the leading figureheads at his university, when it comes to opposition to our arming and funding of a genocide, felt emboldened to speak out against this atrocity in the first place, and helped his fellow students also feel emboldened to speak out against this atrocity, and we wish to crack down on that. And you have all of these free speech defenders online who freak the fuck out every time someone is banned off a social media platform for saying slurs, who conveniently have nothing to say about this, or even flat out celebrating this. Just come out and fucking say it already. You don't like free free speech when it's used to speak out against people you like. Because if you actually gave a shit about free speech, both the principle of it and how it is actually practiced in this country, you would be giving the Trump administration as much grief for this as you do the social media platforms that don't allow bigotry. You literally have Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, saying, yes, we have free speech in this country, but there needs to be limitations. AKA, we don't like that you have negative convictions regarding what this administration is doing, and you wish to voice said convictions. How much more clear-cut does it have to fucking be that Trump and his administration does not give a shit about free speech, aside from virtue signaling to his base when it comes to being as bigoted as possible against minority groups? Imagine if someone in the Biden administration, in regards to anti-trans rhetoric, said something along the lines of, yes, we have free speech in this country, but there needs to be limitations on free speech, and that is why we, the government, are going to crack down on anti-trans rhetoric. You would never hear the end of it from conservative media and all of these people who claim to care so much about free speech, but when it's your guy, Trump, being the authoritarian and wishing to crack down on people's fucking right to protest against their government, you don't care. That's why I don't want to ever hear a Trump supporter talk about free speech ever again, and by extension, I also don't want to ever hear Trump or any Trump supporter talking about how they prioritize America first above all else ever again either. Trump on the campaign trail was all about, yeah, we're going to focus on fixing this country first and foremost because America first, baby. And now that Trump is in office, $800 billion in Medicaid is likely going to be slashed, people's social security benefits are at risk. Fuck actually helping and benefiting the people in this country when we could instead prioritize helping our rich donors get even richer. But hey, at least the regular folk in this country we're screwing over can't criticize Israel, an apartheid state in a completely different part of the world. Land of the free, America first, baby. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Bye-bye.